moment our fellow geeks, dweebs, nerds, and other unfortunates have been fervently waiting for has finally arrived. It's time for TMI, Confessionals of the Nerd Kind. And now, your hosts, Jeff Nerfherder Chandler, Jim Kaiju Baker, and Christina Yojimbo Henry. You can continue. And now, let's get on with the show. Here is TMI.
And he's been telling me for a while I need to get a new one, and I was like, no, it's fine. I don't need to switch
until
it.
Until it's suddenly not fine.
And then the
you're
power
like,
didn't work, and then it was a whole thing. And it's like, last week I can't even tell you how stressed out I was, because I was like, of all the days where the power stopped working, the last day that I need to finish writing this dumb book,
Oh wait, it's dumb now?
Yeah, they're all dumb.
I don't want to read it. Why do I want to read a dumb book?
That's the only kind of book I want to read.
Oh, that is true.
A dumb book.
Dumb book. Is that a section in the library? I picked up a book from my wife at the library the other day, and I had to go into the large print section. I'm like, oh, this is where the old people go to die.
That's why so many people like their Kindles.
I'm convinced you'll go blind reading on your Kindle.
We were always told as a kid to watch TV in the dark, right? The lights are going to kill you. And it's like, I go to the movies in the dark. So far, so good.
I personally don't like to read on an e-reader because I like the feeling of a book. I like all sort of tactile stuff.
I like to smell it. Yeah.
Yeah,
it's easy. We go on vacation, you just take the damn thing with you. And so, all right. Technical issues have been...
mostly sorted, we hope.
All right, listen,
Yeah, every show has their little hiccups, but thanks to some inventive IT help, we do have Christina on the line from Chicago.
Yes.
As always.
Is it cold? Is it snowing there? We're getting snow today. So.
It's 35. It snowed on Friday. I went out to go run, and there were little pieces of ice pelting my face.
Does that drive you to turn around and go back inside, or like?
I shortened my run.
There you go.
I was going to do 5 miles.
I'm surprised. I would think that you've got like full face covering.
I have, like a gaiter that I can pull up over my mouth and nose, like if it's really, really, like if the air is really cold and it's like hurting my lungs. But I don't have anything for my eyes. So what I need are like ski goggles.
Yes,
goggles.
That's exactly what you need.
You're going to look like old school Tom Holland in that first Spider-Man movie.
Spider-Man.
Welcome, everybody. As you know, it is that time of year.
Yes.
That time of year that we're just discussing. It's Christmas time.
Aw, season's beatings, everybody.
Happy holidays, season's beatings. That's very appropriate for today's lineup of films. We're discussing the only, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it's the only Christmas movie currently available to watch theatrically, right? It's the only one that's come out this year.
The Mean One, I think. The Mean One is out.
Is that like direct to the darkest shadows of streaming, though? Is that really in theaters? We're talking Violent Night.
Hold on. I'm sure that the Hallmark Channel has 56 new Christmas movies.
Yeah, but not in theaters.
The Mean One is playing in theaters. I just checked.
Oh, okay. There you go.
Yeah.
All right. There you go. Catch it before it's just a distant memory in everybody's subconscious. But Violent Night.
Violent Night.
Now, can it live up to the trailer, which is, has everybody cheering and laughing and guffawing? So this is one of those things where you say to yourself, I have to see this. And then sometimes when you get into a movie like that, it doesn't quite live up to the trailer. So we're going to discuss if this one does.
Interesting. I guess you'll have to stay tuned.
Yes. And along with Violent Night, again, a round of pats on the back here because this tied in probably better than we thought it would again.
Yeah.
I know we give ourselves credit every single week for this, but it really is amazing.
Is there really someone out there listening going, how do they do it? I don't think so.
It's like Kreskin on The Tonight Show. We dream up these things.
The Ref.
That's what we're talking about. Violent Night and The Ref. And if you're a fan of what we started last week in our concession stand trip and an actual discussion of what we're getting at the concession stand, we are eating Raisinets today.
I need to tell you, we got a cease and desist from the concession stand manager. He said we can't be.
Does he own the copyright for popcorn?
We can't be monopolizing all the time in front of the concession stand. We had a long line behind us last week.
How about we get our snacks and then we'll move away from the
I like
register.
that.
Hey,
I like
if
that.
anything, he should be happy. We are providing free advertising for the concession stand. I've got my research in hand.
Are you going to be eating those on the air?
I will.
This is not a visual medium, Jim. So all people are going to hear
you're
is,
going to have my instant reaction to the Raisinets a little bit later.
I like it. Wow, it's a taste test going on here.
Yeah.
Well, that sounds like fun.
All right. Well, let's get into it. Do we have any news? Christmas themed, maybe? Christmas themed news?
No, this is all bad news. Well, it depends on who you look at. It's not Christmas news. I don't have any Christmas news. We're going to spend some time in the DCEU.
Again.
Well, things seem to be percolating over there and not necessarily in a good way. Variety is reporting that Black Adam, our Dwayne Johnson movie we covered a couple of weeks ago, is set to lose upwards of $100 million in its theatrical run. It's only made $387 million globally after 7 weeks. And Dwayne Johnson is refuting this using some other claims, but I think his numbers include merchandising, which I don't necessarily think counts toward box office.
He's computing this in yen, not dollars.
I don't know. Is that what he got paid in yen?
I don't know what his contract is like, but a lot of actors and producers and directors have back end deals now, so they keep very scrupulous track of those numbers.
Sure, I think he was well involved in the making of this, and is probably pushing for a sequel. But here's the deal: because Patty Jenkins' Wonder Woman 3, the spec script, has just been rejected by DC's new overlords, James Gunn and Peter Safran. They said it no longer fits within their plans.
There's not enough rock songs written into the script.
or dead lovers coming back to life and taking over bodies. So this is interesting because it looks like, these guys are looking at some of these lesser favored movies and deciding that maybe the Snyderverse is not moving forward.
I don't think Wonder Woman was a lesser favored movie, though.
I
think it was one of the few successes that they had. So I don't really get why you would, remove the
obviously
director of like one of the few successful projects.
Right. And she just lost Rogue Squadron.
Because they decided not to go forward with it.
Right. Yeah. So this lady's not having a good week. But this also means that Man of Steel 2 is not moving forward.
Well, what is if none of this stuff is? The Flash. The Flash.
Right. And apparently both of these characters, Superman and Wonder Woman, have cameos in the Flash. So are you just going to delete those scenes? Are you just not going to?
Well, the Flash it's a multiverse thing, right? So you can do whatever you want.
I'm not entirely sure. I don't know. James Gunn must have a plan. I'm assuming he has a plan.
His plan apparently involves Lobo.
Lobo? Really?
Lobo. And if this is the future of DC, yeah.
Does he speak to the camera? I don't know Lobo.
You know what? They probably could make him a very Deadpool-like character.
Wasn't there a Sheriff Lobo?
Sheriff Lobo. That one I'd pay to see. That's a deep cut right there. Was he from BJ and the Bear?
I don't. He had his own show, didn't he?
But he was a spinoff from another show.
He was.
Lobo. I don't know because now Todd Phillips' Joker 2, they just released. They're filming this. So this is still happening, but it doesn't take place in any kind of DC continuity. I don't know. Are they setting up a Crisis on Infinite Earths or, what's the other one?
It on TV.
Yeah, I know they've done it on TV. I honestly don't know. We mentioned Kingdom Come, but how can you do that with unestablished characters if you're going to?
But getting back to the Black Adam piece of this not doing as well as they thought, just get it out of the way of Black Panther, which was the outsized hit in its first incarnation from the MCU, and to release Black Adam like 2 or even 3 weeks before Black Panther is just insane. Just get it out of the way completely.
I mean, it's streaming out. I mean, this is one of it was theatrical only, so it wasn't on streaming. I guess it is available to stream now, but it's not going to make its numbers. I doubt at this point it's even going to break 400. So,
isn't it crazy that we're talking about a movie that made $385 million and we're like, it's a flop?
Yeah, it's a lot of money, and that's why you bring it up all the time. Why did these studios keep going back to these known properties? That's why they're going to invest that much money into it. They want name recognition.
I mean, or they could just make a $20 million movie and not have such high stakes.
I think Marvel ruined it for everybody. They showed somebody that there's a formula out there and everyone is chasing after it, for good or for bad. I don't know. So yeah, you're right. The Flash movie at this point is pretty much the only superhero DC left standing. So what's even more interesting is $100 million is probably more than what it cost for that Batgirl movie they shelved.
Yeah,
they should have just released that. If it's finished, just put it out there.
This is the weird math of tax
stupid
write-downs.
Yeah, it is a business. That, unfortunately, it is a business. So the only other news item I have, actually, I have two news items. Bubba Hotep, you guys would be excited. Bubba Hotep is being released in 4K by Shout Factory in February at a sticker price of $120.99.
What are they putting on the disc?
I don't know. That's 4K.
Well, they do that.
Coming to my house?
They do that, so then they can sell it at $40, and you think you're getting a decent deal. Whoa, it's on sale from $130 to $40. I'm going to buy it now.
What is this, Marshalls?
That's all. No, but they're not actually going to. They're never going to sell it for $129.99.
So why even put it out there?
I mean, they usually do really nice packages. I have a Fright Night.
Yeah. Maybe if it's like the box set, with a t-shirt and a poster and everything else, then that's that's conceivable. But I don't even have a 4K TV, so I'm still working on it. Right? It doesn't matter to me.
Yeah, they're already obsolete. 8K's around the corner. The only other thing I want to bring up, did you see that the Muppet Christmas Carol, which is on Disney Plus, now includes the cut song that Michael Caine sang, the deleted song?
Oh.
That Michael Caine sang, or the one that Belle sang?
Oh, I thought he sings it.
No, When Love Is Gone. That's her song.
I saw an interview and he was talking about the fact that he didn't know he could sing, but he thought he did okay. So I thought he sings
at the end of the film, but that was never cut out.
Oh, okay. All right. Then I guess it's the Belle song. All right. So forget it.
Is it advertised as such? That's interesting on Disney Plus. Like now with new song or uncut?
I don't know what it looks like on Disney Plus.
See, the weird thing, like a lot of people have like very strong feelings around this song, but I always thought it killed the momentum of the movie.
So maybe it's in the extras. Hold on.
Yeah, because we're somewhat invested in this. We did a $5 episode.
The extra. It's in the extras, a deleted song.
Oh,
When Love Is Gone.
It's not incorporated. Okay.
Beautiful and moving deleted song, long treasured by fans.
It's a very long song. I think that
5 minutes.
Yeah, I think that if the song was like 2 or 3 minutes long, they actually probably could have kept it in the film. I have the videotape version of this, and it has the song in it.
Oh,
and that's how it was shown in the theaters. But the song, when I watched the digital version and I saw that they cut it out, I was kind of like, oh, okay, that makes sense, because it kills the momentum dead. Like if you have a theater full of kids, 5 minutes is a long time to listen to a love song.
You think Strange World didn't keep the momentum? Like let's zap yourself back into that theater.
So there you go. All right. That is all the news I have.
All right. Well, let's get into the Christmas spirit then, as much as we can this week. With
Why?
these two
This
movies.
did not bring you into Christmas spirit?
Well, by the end, it does.
Well,
it does. It's a very weird balance of. It doesn't seem to know what it's doing.
I said this when we saw the preview, that the tone seemed really weird. And having seen the movie, I can tell you that the tone is really weird.
I don't think that's a bad thing.
The thing is that this movie thinks it's transgressive, but at its heart, it's just another Christmas is Magic movie with it's like a violent overlay over a gooey center.
And they wear this on their sleeve proudly. It's Die Hard with Santa Claus instead of John McClane.
Yeah,
and they
with
mention
a little
it
Home Alone thrown in, and Home Alone is mentioned numerous times as well.
Before we get into the movie, Cocaine Bear.
Oh,
Cocaine Bear.
talk
about a trailer that everybody freaks out over in the theater. I don't know if this can sustain itself, but I'm there in the theater. I'm watching this movie.
There you go. Yeah, talk about tone. not knowing where it's going, what it wants to be. Yeah, is this a comedy? Is it a interesting?
I'm still thinking about the trailer 15 minutes into Violent Night. I'm like, Cocaine Bear.
Cocaine Bear. It was more entertaining than all the other trailers put together.
Yeah, it's the only one I can remember.
Oh, I wrote them down. I wrote them down.
We saw the trailer for Plane,
Again.
the Gerard Butler movie. We saw the trailer for Infinity Pool.
They're still putting this guy in movies.
Infinity Pool, which is the Brandon Cronenberg film. If you saw that,
I didn't know
we saw a Red Band trailer.
Yeah, there were Red Band. There was a lot of Red Band trailers during this. I know nothing about this. I thought it was really weird looking.
Cool. For a movie called Fear, which unfortunately looks really by the numbers horror.
Isn't that like the Mark Wahlberg movie, like from the 90s? Wasn't he in a movie called Fear or something? I don't know.
I have no recollection of that. And we saw the trailer for House Party again.
Again. I've been seeing that every single time. And that's a Red Band trailer.
Yep. And then Cocaine Bear and Megan. So there was a lot of horror movies or like horror adjacent movies, except for House Party.
Why does Megan have to dance and do the crunk or whatever it is? I'm like looking at this trailer. I'm like, okay, this might be scary. Then as soon as she dances, I'm like, I'm out. I'm not watching this movie. This looks stupid.
The problem is like it's so uncanny valley because it's clearly like a human actress with like a computer CG overlay over her face, and it's so disorienting. Like your brain keeps telling you like this isn't right. Looking at the character, it's almost better to see Chucky, who's obviously plastic.
Because that's what it's supposed to be, is like a doll that's getting up and awkwardly moving.
Right.
Yeah. Very unsettling. Don't make me watch it.
Yeah. As Jeff said, altogether could not erase the memory of Cocaine Bear for me. And I saw all these trailers. And that was the first trailer that came up, actually, was Cocaine Bear.
For us, it was like the fifth one.
Yeah, it was right before
like,
Megan.
Same.
But all right, Violent Night.
Mm-hmm.
Like we said, it's really a Die Hard setup. But before we even get to the setup of the family and the terrorists that have taken them hostage, we're introduced to the real Santa Claus, played by David Harbour, and he's making a stop during his rounds in a bar in Bristol, England.
He has an awful lot of free time.
He does. He says it himself. He doesn't really understand how this Christmas magic works. So
numerous times
it wasn't his choice. So he's kind of thrust into this life, doesn't know how it works. He just does it year after year. And he's getting a little bit tired of it at the beginning. He's disillusioned with kids, as we all are probably today.
Oh, I was going to say, his opening tirade, I'm like, there's a lot of people shaking their heads in the theater right now going, yep.
Yeah. And he's got, a department store Santa right next to him, and everybody in the bar, including the bartender, is assuming that that's who he is. He's getting off his shift, but his shift is actually delivering the presents. And then as he finishes his last drink and gets up to leave, he goes to the door leading to the roof conveniently. And the bartender's like, no, that's the roof. And she goes out, chases him, and sees him in his sleigh riding off, and the sense of wonder that she gets and joy as he's riding off. And you're like, oh, this is heartwarming a little bit. And then he vomits all over her. And that's the opening of the movie.
And that's what I said. I am on board.
But talk about the tone, it's like they're setting up this transgressive Santa, but then they give you a little bit of the Christmas spirit and the joy that the bartender, you see it through her face as she's watching him fly away, and then the vomit on her face. So you're like,
and you will continue to feel that way for the entire movie because this movie does not know at all what it wants to be. It doesn't know if it wants to be a heartwarming Christmas tale or Die Hard.
But Jeff, you're saying that this did not lessen your enjoyment of this whatsoever.
Oh, no. That whole setup was enough for me to be like, I am completely on board with this character. I enjoyed this immensely. There was only two other people in my theater, and one was with me. And I laughed quite a bit out loud. And I enjoyed it. I thought it was great. I had a lot of fun. So apparently you did not.
I mean, my 16-year-old liked it.
Okay. All right. So
Yeah.
Okay. Are
there
we
were,
making
like-
comparisons to?
And there were 4 like 20-something guys in front of us who looked like they were enjoying themselves mostly.
Yeah.
But for me, the whole time I was like, am I supposed to care about these people? Am I,
No. No,
am I
I don't
supposed
think
to
so.
think,
No,
am I supposed to think it's okay that Santa kills people because they're on his naughty list? I mean, I have a naughty list. Can I go out and take
You're
care
not
of
Santa.
business?
You're not Santa.
Well, if you're a terrorist, I think that's where he draws the line.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And they've already killed people.
He is a Viking warrior. They did establish
which I
that.
loved the fact that he's a Viking. He's got all those Celtic pagan tattoos all over. And you get the little, like Jim said, you get the little flashbacks to who and what he was. I thought he was fantastic in this role.
No, I mean, he's good. I think he's playing right in his wheelhouse, though. This is very Hopper-like character where it's like he's the guy who's like really soft underneath, who's like tough on the outside, pretends he doesn't care, but he really does. This is really like kind of right in the sweet spot for David Harbour, and he's good at playing this kind of part.
Yeah, I agree. I think that the movie comes alive when he's on screen, and he's surprisingly not. A lot of the movie takes away from him because of the Die Hard aspect where he's hiding out and you've got to build up the evilness of these terrorists. But to Christina's point, you hate the family so much. Trudy's the only one that you care about, the little girl.
Yeah.
You hate the family so much that you don't really care that they're in peril.
No. And some of them,
he's saving them.
Some of them get shot. Well, I think he's saving the little girl.
Yeah,
it's
he
hard
is.
To, this idea that, it's hard to believe in Santa if he doesn't even believe in himself. And he says point blank at the end, she goes, "Thank you for saving us." He goes, "No, you saved me."
Yeah.
It's about the little girl, because he even tells her at one point, because she gets ruined that there is no Santa. She thinks she's talking to Santa. They're like, I'm sorry, honey, there is no Santa. And he tells her point blank that he does still exist, and he only delivers to kids who still believe in him. That's what he was doing.
So the setup is that this very, very wealthy family, the Lightstones that live in Greenwich, Connecticut, in this huge estate, they're having a Christmas party. And there's more staff on there, caterers, than there are family members. It looks like they're fully employing like 50 people to work this Christmas party. The matriarch, played by Beverly D'Angelo, and I couldn't for the life of me figure out who this was until the end credits. I'm like, okay.
Really? Oh, yeah.
Gertrude. And she is reprehensible. She is the matriarch, and it's her wealth that her children are going after. And talking about how these characters are reprehensible, you've got Jason Lightstone, who is Trudy's father, who is kind of the protagonist. But it turns out he's just as bad as the rest of his family members, because he's coming back and he's got an ex-wife who doesn't like the family. He's like, yeah, I know, I understand, but we've got to do it. It's my mother. And then there's the sister, and who has a B action movie star boyfriend and a terrible teenage son who is just blatantly kissing up to the mother. I hated this character. She's like to her boyfriend at one point, "Kiss me in front of my son," blah, blah, blah.
That was pretty gross. That was worse than some of the killings.
It was. So you're really upfront, like you do not like this family. And then it becomes apparent that the staff of this Christmas party are actually terrorists, and they're there to steal money and take them hostage. So this coincides with Santa coming and delivering the presents to this house. The reindeer abandon him at one point because they get spooked. So he's stuck there. But Trudy's there, who really believes. As Jeff said, Santa is invested in helping Trudy. And that's really basically it. It's Santa's job to take out these terrorists, John McClane style, one at a time, until it's all done. And it's a happy ending.
And there's some fun kills going on here.
There are some fun kills. The one part that I really laughed out loud, and maybe you'll agree with me, maybe not, is the Home Alone sequence when
yes. Yeah, because these people needed to die.
Because I saw this on opening night, full theater, and it was all young people, meaning late teens, early 20s. And they were invested, they were laughing throughout. But during the Home Alone part, it was just like uproarious, especially when the guy, impales his jaw on the nail. And of course, when he telegraphs holding the nail and the bowling ball rolling, everybody's laughing like
it's coming.
That even happened. Like,
yeah. Can I just say that family does not, I don't think they've ever bowled in their life. So why they would have that many bowling balls in the attic is beyond me. But yeah.
There's probably a like bowling lanes.
There's probably
in the
a bowling
basement.
Probably is
alley,
a
yeah.
bowling alley. You know?
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but why would they be in the attic? Who put them in the attic? So, but you're right. It was telegraphed, but you knew it was coming. And listen, when you walk into this movie, I think you know what you're going to get. It's laced with profanity. It's laced with some horrific and very creative kills, especially when he gets into the shed and he gets his skull crusher, or he finds his hammer. But yeah, Trudy's in the attic, and she just, she telegraphs it right up front that she had just watched Home Alone and she was all into it. So now this is what she's going to do to keep the bad guys away from her.
All the bad guys have code names, but they're all like Christmas code names,
Which
like
is pretty funny.
Krampus, who's
Right.
the guy that you hate the most out of the terrorists. Gingerbread,
Tinsel.
candy cane, sugar plum, tinsel, frosty. I don't know who was who, but during the Home Alone segment, the one girl who gets the back of her skull,
Hair.
the skin comes off, like she gets scalped by whatever the tar that Trudy puts down. That was a pretty cool, not a kill, but a wound anyway.
A wound. And she just knew that those boots were going to get stuck and the girl would have to take her boots off and then step onto those ornaments.
And we also get John Leguizamo as the head terrorist, Scrooge, who has a vendetta against Christmas, by the way. So he's, unimpressed when he realizes that this is the real Santa. Because at first, of course, they're thinking that this guy's just pulling their chain, who's running around. They're thinking it's a family member or a staff member that's dressed as Santa. But he takes great joy when he realizes it's Santa, and he can kill him and end Christmas for everyone.
Christmas, yep.
Because he had such a terrible childhood and a bad Christmas associations with that childhood. It's fun because he's reveling in this part as well, as Scrooge, John Leguizamo. So I did enjoy the final showdown.
When he cries, "Christmas dies tonight." And I'm like,
Yeah.
oh, here we go. Halloween ends.
But the thing when Santa magically goes up the one remaining chimney after that shed blows up
Again, you saw that
and
coming,
eviscerates him.
The fight sequence in the shed, and they bring out Bryan Adams' Christmas Time song.
Oh, yeah.
Well
Mhm.
done. Well done.
Well,
I guess I'm a 16-year-old child because I absolutely was.
I think Reggae Christmas would have worked better, actually, in that scene.
Oh, they should have probably workshopped that a little bit more.
They should have. Yeah.
And even like when he shoves the grenade down the guy's pants and he's walking away, and then he's like, "I gotta watch," and he just turns around and watches the guy blow up, and then he's got that Santa laugh down to a T. It was fun. It was fun.
It was fun, but here's my thing: the tonal aspects of it aside, I was a bit disappointed because, again, trailer expectations, right? Because you see the trailer, oh, Santa's kicking ass against terrorists with guns. But I don't think that he kicks enough ass because he gets his ass handed to him during each of these fights.
Oh, yeah.
So I was kind of disappointed with that because I wanted to see him kick more ass. And I didn't think it was as funny as the trailer made it out to be. Like, again, this is going back to tone, because it kind of tries to balance like a funny, serious tone. So it's not 100% fun. It's not 100% violent. It's not 100% action. It's just this weird, chaotic mix of all three. Yeah, I couldn't get over it.
It's too bad. I had no problems with the tone. Although apparently Jason forget pretty quickly he broke his finger.
Yeah, my son said that too. Yeah. He was like, well, they covered it up later because he was wearing mittens.
Oh, I didn't catch that. The other thing is they forget how to use walkie-talkies pretty early on, because you can't just keep talking back and forth without clicking it, and you can't hear the other guy unless you unclick. But the relationship between Santa and Trudy, and it renews his belief in himself and in the Christmas spirit.
Wait, but that's what I'm saying. It's like peanut brittle on the outside of like a caramel center.
Yeah, which is not a bad thing.
It feels so weird because you're whipsawing between these super violent and honestly more gory than I anticipated.
Very
fight
gory.
Scenes,
There's some very gory stuff going on.
Because action movies doesn't always translate into gore, but they lean into like horror movie gore here. Like with the blood splatter and the guys getting fed into the snowplow and, a lot of stuff. I was like, wow, this, Michael Myers has nothing on this guy.
Yeah, I always said that an icicle is the perfect murder weapon because it'll melt and there'll be no fingerprints. but I guess a sharpened candy cane will do just as well.
Yeah.
It does remind me a lot. Do you remember in Scrooged at the very beginning, they got the little promos going for the TV show? And,
Yes.
Lee Majors has the night the reindeer died. I think I brought this up. That looks like somebody saw that and was like, that would be a great movie, because that's what this is. Listen, I walked out of the theater. It gave me back my ho ho ho. I really liked it.
I did like the ending. I did like that they tried to give you a heartwarming ending. And I did like the reveal that the hit squad that Gertrude keeps talking about is in fact in league with Leguizamo. So that was a nice reveal. And then Santa getting shot after he defeats Scrooge. Although you knew he wasn't going to die. That Christmas magic had to come back into play.
No, they Tinkerbelled him awake again.
Yes, they did. That's exactly what they did. I believe too.
But that's because Jason burned the money, right? So he did something selfless.
Yeah, but meanwhile, they're like, he's dying. He's getting cold. Let's burn the fire's dying. There's a shed right there on fire with wood. It's a wooden shed.
But if they did that, he wouldn't come back to life. They had to burn the money. They had to burn the money.
Also, you're not supposed to move people who are injured unless you're a medical professional.
Was in pieces. The shed was in pieces. You could have just taken a board over there that was already on fire. Just saying.
But of course, you're not going to be surprised to know that there's a sequel already in the works.
Leave it alone. This is fun.
Because Harbor wants to bring in Mrs. Claus and the elves, so it may take place North Pole. So what could the story be? Terrorists take over the North Pole and he's got to do some damage?
You are right back to the night the reindeer died. Santa's got to defend us for it.
It's not an out of the box office bonanza, but it's already made more than its budget. So I think it did better than they projected it to on its opening weekend. So of course, sequels in the works. Why wouldn't
you go? Why wouldn't?
Right, and they didn't spend $1 zillion on it. So this is, even though this wasn't completely 100% for me, I appreciate that they spent $20 million on the budget, maybe.
Wow.
I think that's what I read.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think you're right. Yeah.
It's not a huge budget, so when you don't spend a ton of money, you can try something that's a little out of the box and see if there's an audience for it. Yeah. And, I appreciate that, and this is an example of a studio, because it's Universal. This is a big studio taking a chance on a really weird movie.
Yeah.
I appreciate this. Just the fact of it, I appreciate.
The existence of it.
Yeah.
And like Jim said, the trailer's enough to get you in the door. Like you said, it wears its heart on its sleeve that it is Die Hard. It's Die Hard and Home Alone with Santa Claus. I got kind of like Killer Clowns from Outer Space vibes at times, where he's using Santa tropes to kill these guys. Yeah, I think if you're going to make a sequel, though, you have to kind of change the formula. You can't just give me the formula.
Yeah, you have to up the stakes. And right. I think probably it would be good for a sequel to have sort of less of that Christmas magic thing.
If you've got Santa involved, every time it's got to be Christmas is in peril, and that there's no other reason to have Santa be the hero, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm. When he was, when they had him tied up and he was going through all his list of names, was I the only one who was hoping he was going to go Topo Gigio? Santa Claus reference, Tim Allen, nothing.
I don't think I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever seen Santa Claus.
What? I've seen it. I saw it one time. I don't see the appeal of Tim Allen. So that's something I ever needed to watch again.
Well, it is one of my go-tos at Christmas time. And of course, now they got a TV show. So there you go, you filthy animals. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas. Violent Night. So what kind of buckets? What kind of popcorn buckets out of 5?
I'm going way too high compared to you guys.
You've got the Christmas spirit going. You're a giving sort. I know
really
that you're
got me into spirit. Yes. 4 1/4. I am going 4
1/4.
4 1/4.
David Harbor. Do you hear that? Do you hear that,
Harbor,
Mr. Harbor?
I will take that man out to dinner. I went out to dinner with my friend Frank, who we saw this movie with.
And you said to him, I wish you were David Harbor.
He kind of looks like Santa Claus anyways, my friend Frank. So yeah, it just did it for me. It did. It's a mindless, stupid, silly, over the top, goofy, like I said, utterly preposterous, but it works. It works for me, and I enjoyed it. Turned my brain off for an hour and a half.
It wasn't the concept that I had a problem with. It was more, I felt the execution was uneven. And, like I said from the start, I felt the tone was so weird, and I just could not get over like these really treacly scenes between Santa and Trudy, and and then switch, and then there's Santa with a sledgehammer smashing heads in, and it was just.
He did ask her to turn around when he did that.
Aren't the Skull Crushers the King Kong bad guys?
Oh, the skull crushers, skull crawlers.
Skull crawlers. Okay.
Yeah,
All
I think
right.
he's skull crawlers. And even his relationship with the reindeer, I thought it just, yes.
It was just hard. It was just hard for me to get over the ups and downs, and I didn't really know how to feel about it in the end. I thought David Harbour was fine. Like I said, this is right in his wheelhouse. This is a kind of part that he's good at. But I appreciate that the studios rolled the dice on a smaller budget film. And so for that, I'm going to just give it a 3.
Yeah, it was good. I feel the same way about the tone, but I also feel that it was a little disappointing in comparison to the trailer. So I don't think I got quite what I was expecting from watching that trailer. So I'm going to give it 3 buckets out of 5 as well. It wasn't bad. It was, entertaining. So I'd watch it again if it was on TV or what have you. When my son's old enough, I'm sure he's going to enjoy it as well.
Yeah.
Well, go check it out for yourself.
Violent Night.
I have one fun fact to bring to the table. St. Nicholas is the patron saint of prostitutes. That's all I got to say.
I saw that too. Is that true? Is that really true?
It's on the internet. It must be.
Oh, yeah, because there's never any misinformation on the internet.
All right, well, let's move out of the theater. Let's go to the concession stand. I don't care what the manager says. We are going to talk about our snacks in full view of everyone.
You are such a rebel.
I've got to wait, for the family that buys 6 bales of popcorn and drinks and tickets when I'm trying to get into my seat at the theater, so they can wait for us this time. Listen to that. Raisinets.
What's going on?
They're shaking. I'm shaking that box.
Okay, they're shaking.
It's like Pavlov's dogs.
My cat
Raisinets
will come running
this week. We already covered the mainstay, popcorn, last week. So we're moving on to the ridiculously expensive candy that you'll find in the display case. First one up, Raisinets.
I don't know about your theater, but I have a Five Below right next door, and you can get your candy really cheap.
So did either of you guys look into the history of Raisinets?
Of course not. We know that you were going to do it.
Let's hope you didn't disappoint.
Somehow I've become.
You just had to finish an 800-page novel.
Hey, I'll do it. I'll do it next week. I've got a pick for next week.
I've become Hermione.
There you go. That's not a bad thing.
I can see why the manager wants to ban us from the.
So, chocolate-covered raisins are actually a confectionery that's been around for a long time. They were kind of a traditional British holiday candy that was associated, with Christmas. There would be different kinds of coatings on raisins, but they were kind of first introduced in the U.S. in 1926 by the Blumenthal brothers, which was a Pennsylvania-based chocolate company. They branded them as Raisinets. They were sold to the Nestle company almost 60 years later in 1984.
Wow, that late? Really? They were an independent candy up until 1984?
Yes. So they were this smaller company, like I said, the Blumenthal brothers. They were initially sold at the movies for a nickel a box, which I'm sure contributed to their popularity and their association with movies. That was the big thing I was trying to find, was like, how did they become associated with cinema? But I think their cost was probably a huge factor, like I was saying last week with popcorn, where it was so cheap to sell. It's cheap for people to buy. Raisinets cost the concessionaire, it was about a cent for them to buy the Raisinets, so they could sell them for a 4-cent profit. And they are actually currently owned by the Ferrara Candy Company, because Ferrara merged with the Italian candy company Ferraro, and the company is headquartered in Chicago.
So
all comes back to Chicago.
Yeah, so I've got my box. I've got my box of Raisinets in front of me, and I do see that it's a trademark of the Ferraro group. So did they buy this from Nestle at some point? Did Nestle sell it to them?
They did. And
why would they want to do that? Why would they do that?
Nestle actually sold a lot of their line to Ferrara a few years ago. And it's not unusual, actually, for candy companies to be headquartered in Chicago. It was known at one point as the candy capital of the world. I'm sure you probably don't realize how many
Thought that was Hershey,
candies
Pennsylvania.
have been associated with Chicago, but like obviously the Wrigley Company is founded here, is still here. Blommer Chocolate, which actually processes 45% of the cacao beans in the country, is in Chicago. And actually sometimes when you're downtown in the Loop, you can smell
it?
the chocolate
Wow, that's
being
cool.
made. The Brock's Candy Company is here. Mars, one of their biggest manufacturing plants, is in Chicago. And they actually merged with Wrigley, and their global R&D is like less than a mile from my house. Tootsie Rolls are made here. There's like a ton of candy that actually gets made, like iconic
You could just
candies
do
that
like
get
a
made in
whole
Chicago.
candy tour when you get to Chicago.
You can.
What about the Twix headquarters? Do they actually have the left and right buildings on the other side, opposite end of the streets?
We're
I
going to
don't
have
think
to
that-
hold on that until we discuss Twix, because I'm sure that they're
Oh.
going to be up on our menu at
Are
some
we
point.
talking Twix?
We got it. Come on.
Yeah, I think you're going to talk about, like what's sold at the concession stand.
Yeah, we're gonna hit everything. We're gonna hit everything.
And I don't know about you guys, but I always get Raisinets when I go
Hey, you
to
said
the-
you mix
the
them with your
movies.
popcorn.
I mix them with the popcorn, and you get this kind of sweet and salty yumminess.
Interesting.
Now, this is very interesting about Raisinets because it combines the most boring Halloween candy that you can think of, raisins. What kid wants a box of raisins in their Halloween bag? Well, I didn't, and my son certainly doesn't. But yet, slap some chocolate on that raisin, put it in a box with a logo, and my son is all over it. This is the chocolate candy that he wants at the movies. He will never eat a raisin by itself, but he will eat Raisinets. So it's a way that you parents out there,
Get his vegetables.
if you haven't happened upon this revelation before, sneak something healthy into your kid's mouth. It's like a Trojan horse of chocolate.
This is also why you drizzle Velveeta cheese all over your broccoli.
It's a Christmas tie-in, actually. I want to mention this. Ferrara Candy Company, which makes the Raisinets, they're also the world's largest producer of candy canes.
That seems amazing. Do you think they actually tried to make chocolate-covered grapes first before they decided to wait for them to shrivel up?
I know that for a while, Nestle tried to do Raisinette. They were like cherries, and they had Raisinette, I want to say chocolate-covered blueberries or something else like that. They tried to do different other
Ooh, those are,
dried fruits, but Nestle stopped producing those a few years ago, probably when the were sold to Ferrara.
Raisinets.
Right.
You can get the milk chocolate and dark chocolate.
And yeah, my wife
like it.
prefers dark chocolate.
Yeah, I'm a dark chocolate guy.
And I have a suggestion for all you bakers. If you go to sallysbakingaddiction.com, she has oatmeal raisinette cookies, and they are really delicious. If you like oatmeal raisin cookies,
Do you put Raisinets in them?
yes, you put the Raisinets in them
Ooh.
instead of raisins.
Oh, that's a game changer right there.
Yeah, so it's like
Wow.
chocolate-covered raisins in your oatmeal cookies.
Wow. I wonder if
Very
the
delicious.
Ferraro company wants a piece of that.
Yeah, they're gonna
action.
buy her out and then burn her recipe.
Yeah.
You'll never see it again.
So I've got my box of Raisinets open, and I'm testing one right now.
Huh?
Interesting. There's much more chocolate going on than there is raisin, and this may be why it's so popular.
Is it chocolate?
Wait,
grape?
here's the first course coming. It's gravy and potatoes. Wait a second. Here's dessert. No, it's
Blueberry
mostly
pie? Blueberry
chocolate. Okay, there's a hint of
forgot-
raisin. There's a hint of raisin there, but it's mostly chocolate. So it's like a cluster. It's not just a covering. It's a cluster of chocolate over the raisin. So hence again, it's probably why kids love it so much. At least my son, anyway.
Taste tested just for you, right here in the concession
Yes,
stand.
yes. What was that
ladies-
guy that used to do this on the Food Network? Unwrapped, right? I forget his
Oh,
name.
Mark Singer?
He's shaking his fist at us right now. Jeff, you've kind of remained mum on your opinion of Raisinets. Is this a favorite of yours?
They're not my go-to. I don't think that I seek them out. I will tell you, I did not eat popcorn this week, so stop shaming me.
Did we shame you into not getting
No,
a
I
bucket
really
of
don't give a
popcorn?
crap what you think about my eating habits or not. I really don't. But I had plans for dinner afterwards, and I didn't
We shame because we care, Jeff.
Yeah, I know. That's what my wife says all the time. If somebody gives me Raisinets, I'm eating them.
Yeah. And I have a Star Wars kind of sense memory associated with Raisinets because
Really?
when my parents took me and my sister, my next sister, I have three sisters, the one who's right after me, to see
Next sister.
Return of the Jedi. We went to the theater that used to be in the mall in Fishkill, if you guys remember
Oh,
that.
Yep, at the Duchess Mall, the dead
Yeah.
Duchess Mall.
They bought me the Return of the Jedi film magazine,
Yes.
which I still have.
Yes.
And it was laying on top of the Raisinets, so in the concession booth. So for a long time, the magazine
smell
actually
it?
still smelled like Raisinets. Yeah.
Which is good, because at least it wasn't the other way around. Your Raisinets smelled like Luke Skywalker's feet.
All right, so do we all have our boxes of Raisinets for the second feature now?
Yep. Thank you,
Yep.
Jim, for buying that.
You're welcome. You're welcome, Mr. Manager. We are now leaving, and we are going back to our seats. Next week, I'm picking the candy, and I'm going to do the research. Snow caps. Now, Christina, you're not going to be here for next week's concession. Oh,
I'll be
no.
off of my holiday travels.
All right, so Jeff and I, we're going to get stocked up on boxes of snow caps for next week's.
You can eat dark
concessions.
chocolate snow caps as well.
All right, so that's next week, though. This week, we're sitting back down right now in the theater, and we are unspooling 1994's The Ref. Now, Christina, this was your pick. You say you watch this on a yearly basis at Christmas time. Now, for those unfamiliar with The Ref, the movie's marketing, even the DVD case and title, do not give away that this is a Christmas movie. So hence it is a cult favorite of those who know. I said last week that I probably haven't seen this since it was out on video, but after watching it, I don't think I've ever seen it. Now, it was not familiar to me at all. So Jeff, have you seen this previously, The Ref?
I'm going to say that I think I have, although I didn't remember any of it. Because this was like when Dennis Leary was at the top of his game.
This is his first real role in a film. And this plays exactly to his strengths
Oh, absolutely.
as a comedian.
Yeah, he plays himself, which is not a bad thing. But and I'm watching this, I'm going, they watch this every year? Like, this is mean spirited and kind of leaning into War of the Roses type stuff. But by the end, I'm like, all right, listen, if I'm going to sit here and laud Violent Night, I am not going to poo-poo this. It's a lot of fun. The characters are despicable.
This is actually one of the things I like about this. So it is a Christmas movie, but for some reason the studio released it in March.
Which is insane. That's like the death knell for this movie. I'm like, who's going to want to go get the Christmas goosebumps in March? You know?
Yeah. And it's kind of like when we talked about Hocus Pocus and they had released it in the middle of the summer and you're thinking what were they thinking marketing wise? So the thing I love about this movie, there's sort of this idea that you're in this idyllic small town, New England.
It reminds me a lot of Market Street and Corny where I grew up.
There's this wonderful transition at the beginning. The credits are rolling and it's playing a holiday carol and they're showing all the kids running through the streets and looking in the windows and all the people of the town greeting each other. And it's like a Norman Rockwell scene. And then the camera pans up to this marriage counselor window and then you see the absolutely toxic degree of acrimony occurring in
the one-liners that fly through this movie are amazing.
And I just want to say Judy Davis and Kevin Spacey are so perfect together. They feel like a couple that has a history behind them, and the way they bicker with each other, their comic timing is perfect. And that's what really carries this film, is everybody in this movie knows exactly what they're there for and they do it perfectly. I was a pretty big Dennis Leary fan. Ted Demme, who directed this, he actually directed Dennis Leary's No Cure for Cancer, which is his famous comedy special. And that's how they got together to do this. And I just think this movie is so I love clever dialogue. And there's a lot of clever dialogue in this movie. Yeah. it's a talking movie, you can't like
Yeah.
space out. You have to pay attention to what's going on and
No,
the
it's very
dynamics.
rat-a-tat, some of the stuff that goes on.
I also love kind of the intense degree of classism, the way people who have less powers are juxtaposed against those who do, especially the police lieutenant who's really up against it with the wealthy residents of the town. But Dennis Leary plays Gus. He's a jewel thief. And he is, again, one of these guys who sort of, I wouldn't say he has a heart of gold, but he has a soft spot because his partner is a guy who clearly should not be in this business anymore. And he's obviously taking care of him. He's robbing a safe. He gets caught up in this weird booby trap that the owner put in place.
Speaking about Home Alone, right? At least Kevin never used cat piss.
Reminiscent of that recurring joke in Clue, which we just watched, by the way.
Right.
What was that? What's that smell? Yeah.
Right. Everybody keeps asking, like, did you have an accident?
What's this?
Or something like that.
It is a running joke. It's great.
Cat pee sprayed in his face when he opens the safe.
How do you collect that, by the way, to actually put it in a repository?
You got to actually massage your anal glands.
He gets caught up in this trap, barely gets away from the building where there's lights going off and it's saying burglar alert, burglar alert. His partner, who's supposed to drive the car, panics and leaves him. So he takes Judy Davis's character, Caroline, hostage. Well, he goes into a shop and she's by herself because her husband Lloyd has decided to sit in the car, and he tells them to take him back to their house where he has unwittingly stepped into the very terrible family dynamics of this family. Lloyd's mother, his brother, and his family are all coming for Christmas dinner, and these people really don't like each other at all. And it turns out actually that the mother, Rose, played really wonderfully by Glynis Johns, who is has this very sweet old lady look, but she is hardcore underneath. And
this is about toxic family, which was a big part of Violent Night. It's almost like that the characters have their equivalents between these two movies, the family I'm talking about.
But what I like about it is it doesn't try to pretend like Christmas will solve all the problems or whatever. And because there's kind of this heightened emotion that's brought on by the hostage situation for Caroline and Lloyd, it kind of forces them to examine what is really causing their problems underneath, right? The bitterness between them is so extensive and it's like corrosive. They can't stop arguing even when they're taken hostage. He's constantly like, shut up. What is the matter with you two?
They actually argue about why they were taken hostage. Well, if he just came in the store with me, then he wouldn't have taken a couple.
It's your fault. Yeah, it's your fault.
Like all these little petty grievances that they have each other are just kind of a symptom of what's really making them sick and arguing. And ultimately, it's actually Lloyd's mother who's kind of driven a wedge between them, but also the kinds of decisions that they made years ago that have just seeped in and just, driven a wedge into their marriage. And what I like about it is the way the film escalates and that the emotional catharsis feels really earned when you get to it. Like you've watched these people really work through something that has been festering. And it's not just between Carolyn and Lloyd, it's also with the rest of the family. And the way that Rose, the mother, sort of treats everybody because she has money. And Carolyn says at one point, we all tiptoe around her because she has money. And she's allowed to treat them all like garbage because she has money. She just gets under everybody's skin. And that's one of my favorite lines when he says, your husband ain't dead, lady. He's hiding.
Yeah.
I mean, Carolyn and Lloyd can't stop arguing. They're tied up to the chair he's on the phone with Murray trying to figure out when he's going to come pick him up. They won't stop arguing. So I like when he sprays them with the water from the sink,
the
like they're
sprinkler, yeah.
misbehaving pets. Like, and he even tells them off at one point. He's like, "You're supposed to be a family. How can you talk to each other like this?"
And unfortunately, that's how families deal with it.
The reprehensible little kid who is blackmailing J.K. Simmons in his this is unbelievable. His debut film
this
role.
Is great. Yeah. Crazy.
Blackmailing J.K. Simmons with incriminating photos. He admires Dennis Leary's character here and wants to go off with him. And he's having none of it. He's like, what? He's like, you should be thankful for what you have.
Right.
So,
he's like, I was wrong about you. I thought I
thought you were smart,
basically.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. He's like, it's not like some kind of dream, that I'm living here. And of course, it's revealed that this is supposed to be his final score, right? And
of course, yeah, the crook with the heart of gold,
last,
right? Yeah. I don't really want to do this, but this is the last time.
And it's like, if you've ever seen any movie ever, you know that the last score is always the one where everything goes wrong.
Mm-hmm.
If it were a noir movie, he'd be dead.
Yeah.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, as we were saying, this is all leading up to the annual family Christmas dinner, which nobody looks forward to. So Leary's character of Gus has walked into this family affair. The rest of the family is on their way, so they can't tell them not to come. So they've got to deal with this. And Leary dresses up as the marriage counselor. They explain it away by saying, oh, this is our marriage counselor, Dr. Wong, and this is just like out of the box therapy. Like he's here with us for Christmas dinner, which is actually would be a pretty good idea. To explain away the name, I think he says to Rose at one point, my mother was Irish and your father, he wasn't. And that's all he says.
End of discussion.
Yeah.
And one of the things I like too is how, as the evening goes on, he does use the threat of the fact that he has their son tied up upstairs over their head a couple of times. But then at some point, Gus kind of becomes a co-conspirator against Rose with Lloyd and Caroline, which is really interesting how the dynamics shift when they go in the kitchen at one point to get more wine. And Caroline says, your mother's a bitch. And Lloyd's like, don't say that, she's my mother. And Gus is like, oh no, she is.
Oh no, yeah, he's right.
She's like, thank you. I mean, I think this movie is so funny. I think to me, it's nonstop funny. Like, and you know how in your family, you'll have movies that you quote all the time. And this is one of those movies that we quote. My husband and I especially quote this movie at each other.
Yeah. What are we, girlfriends here?
Time. Our favorite is when Christine Baranski, who's a genius in this part, she's so annoying. She's like, we can't open presents until Christmas, until midnight. And he's like, why not? And she's like, because it's not Christmas until midnight. And he says, we're going to open the presents now because we're adults and we can open the presents whenever we want. I don't know. For some reason, that line has become something that we've applied to our lives whenever we're making a decision. It's like, well, we're adults and we can do whatever we want.
And the rest of the family increasingly realizes there's something wrong with Dr. Wong, but they still don't question that he's a marriage counselor.
Yeah. And the thing is, like, so many other things get unloaded too, right? Like Connie keeps hitting John on the shoulder, and at one point Dennis Leary tells her off, like, and his absolute glee when he's wrapping the tape around his mother's mouth shows you how long he's been putting up with this. There's so many things at work here. When Rose opens the Christmas present with the wallet and she reads the card from them like she's never heard of them before. She says, thank you, Connie and Gary and Mary and John. Like, she has no idea who these people are. The dynamics between the family, like, there's obviously a lot of stuff that people have never said. And this is real, that feels real, because that's how families are, right? There's all these resentments and things people never say. And it just becomes like
below the surface. Yeah.
Right. It just becomes this kind of passive aggressive thing. And it's clear that this family has needed a clearing of the air for some time.
Audiences didn't find this right away, as we said before. It was not a hit. Released in March, first strike against it. The ref you hear that title and you think it's a baseball movie. So, interestingly enough, it was released in the UK as Hostile Hostages.
I'd see that one.
It had a different ending at first. That Gus gave himself up to the police to be arrested just to teach the kid, Jesse, a lesson. Test audiences didn't like that, so they
Doesn't
take off
seem
on the boat.
consistent with his character.
No.
And, again, because Caroline and Lloyd kind of become co-conspirators with him in a way as the night goes on, because they're invested in protecting his identity. Think about it. And it becomes about more than just Jesse, but I like the ending. Dennis Leary gives a very Dennis Leary rant at the end, which is really funny. It's clearly off the cuff.
Critics were divided on this. One of our favorite critics, Roger Ebert, and he's always good for a quote. Material like this is only as good as the acting and writing. The ref is skillful in both. Owen Gleiberman from Entertainment Weekly only gave it a C- rating.
Owen.
The ref is crushingly blunt-witted and monotonous in its celebration of domestic sadism.
Wow.
It does celebrate domestic sadism.
That is true, but
All right. So out of 5 buckets, what would we give to the ref?
This is this is a sentimental favorite. So I'm going to say 4.
4 buckets.
Yeah.
I'll go 3. It was enjoyable. Like you said, the writing and the acting is pretty spot on with these guys.
I'll have to be the contentious one. I didn't really think it was that funny. I'm sorry, but not my cup of tea. Now, I think that the reason that I skipped over it is that a lot of these actors I kind of found irritating. I didn't like Dennis Leary when he first came out and became notorious for his monologues and stand-up. The fact, puffing away on a cigarette, I found him inherently irritating. So that's kind of changed over time. I realized that that's a character that he was playing, but I never really liked Kevin Spacey that much either. And Christina Baranski also, maybe she plays such a jerk so convincingly. I never really liked her. So this is just like all the cards are stacked against this movie because I inherently didn't like any of the actors. It was trying too hard to be subversive in my eyes. And I don't want to take it away from anyone else. I know that this is a cult film and a favorite of a lot of people out there. Just not what I was looking for on the particular evening that I watched it. I would give it 2 out of 5 buckets.
What a damn good pairing with Violent
It
Night.
was. It definitely was.
Yeah, that was one of those things when I was watching Violent Night. I was like, oh, there's somehow this is matched much better than I expected.
Yeah, no,
to.
a little too close there.
But listening to that Christmas Carol put over those deep forest beats at the beginning, I'm like, this is so 90s.
Do you remember when you could actually slam the phone down in anger? You can't do that anymore.
You can't do that.
Yeah.
You can just hit the button in anger.
Yeah,
but
yeah.
you'd break
Do you
your
remember
phone.
when you would accidentally tape over things on your VCR?
Yes, absolutely.
Because that's a whole plot point in this
Yeah.
movie.
I would lose my mind when I would do that to myself.
Mhm.
Yeah. I did put in my notes, look, kids, it's a phone book. It's like nobody knows
Yeah.
what that is.
Oh, I know. And he's looking up the name of the bar in the phone
Yeah.
book.
Is there an effing waste of life named Murray in here?
Oh,
Yeah, there are. I could see where there's definitely quotable stuff going on in here. At the one point, he goes, "Humans have feelings." He goes, "Didn't your alien overlords tell you that?"
humans get frightened because they have feelings. Didn't your alien leaders teach you that before they
Okay,
sent
there
you
you go.
here?
There you go. That's it. Yeah, like I said, the dialogue is very well crafted. So
You know who you don't want to quote is Lieutenant Huff, and he's supposed to be like the likable character. He says very questionable things. So, what else did we do this week?
I was gonna start talking about Willow, which is on Disney Plus, but I watched Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio.
Oh,
last
you
night.
did.
I
What's your
did.
verdict on that?
It is beautiful and bleak all at the same time.
I would expect nothing less. I would expect
And you've
nothing
got
less.
Ewan McGregor as he's not even Jiminy Cricket. I can't remember his name, but it's definitely a different take on this stuff. Probably a good 10 minutes up front with Geppetto and his real boy, Carlos. So interesting stuff. I want to make one mention. I don't know if anybody knows about this. It's a podcast that just dropped recently and is produced by Jordan Peele called Quiet Part Loud.
Yes.
It's okay. It is something to behold. It is a 12-part horror, I guess, tale on Spotify. But I want to shout out because my buddy Rich, my best friend on the entire planet, has 2 voice speaking roles on it. So check it out.
Really?
Definitely something interesting there.
What's the name of it again?
It is called Quiet Part Loud
Okay.
on Spotify.
Since that one recent episode where we covered the original Nightmare on Elm Street, I've started to go back through the other movies in the series. I haven't watched them all yet. Surprisingly enough, the only ones that I'd ever seen were part 1, of course, part 2, part 3, and then the new Nightmare. So I skipped over those that came in the middle. So I've been going through those, but I've been watching them in order anyway. So we've gone through 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and they get increasingly ridiculous, and I would expect nothing less as the series goes on. But remember, we were talking about the original ending and how when Freddy comes back and then the mother gets pulled through the front door, and it kind of lessens her win over Freddy. That happens over and over and over again, as it does in any of these franchises, to give them that. But to have the characters go through all this elaborate stuff through each movie, discovering what Freddy's weakness is, and it's a different one every time,
He's got
and
a
kill
lot.
him at the end of the movie, and then, oh, no, last second, I'm back. You get that feeling over and over. Why did I sit through this and watch these characters, research and come up with, well, we've got to bury Freddy's bones in the junkyard and consecrate his remains. That'll kill him. Nope, doesn't. Last second of the movie. Dream Warriors from part 3 are now, all their powers are going into the Dream Master, and she can kill him, which she does, but no, doesn't take. So he comes back for part 5. And then this is out there, and I'll give him that one of the characters from part 4 becomes pregnant. So he's living in the dreams of her unborn baby. They bring back the mother, and she's got a way to kill him, and this should be for good, but no, doesn't take. He's back for Freddy's dead. So these things, none of them give that resolution that you're looking for at the end of each movie. But I guess that's the name of the game. You got to bring the character back. So I'm just going through these one by one so I can watch New Nightmare again, because I'm really looking forward to seeing that again, because it's been a while.
So Nightmare on Elm Street, unrealistic. Is that what you said?
Yes. Implausible. I'll strike my fist down.
Well, I think this is, the formula for a long time, which was like people started going to the movies to see the killer and not to see the supposed heroes. So you had to have a way to bring the killer back over and over.
Yeah.
And obviously that happens with Halloween, and that happens with Friday the 13th, and it happens, with Nightmare on Elm Street. And I have always said this is one of the reasons why I like the Scream franchise. Like, sort of the inherent nature of Ghostface is like, you can have that emotional resolution at the end, and then someone else can be Ghostface in the next film, and that you just become more invested in the heroes and less in the killer.
Yeah. And it's telling that the only one that I've seen thus far, besides the first one that Wes Craven was involved in, was 3. And those are by far the 2 best of 1 through 5. Coincidentally, I think not.
Yeah, well, that's sort of the thing, right? A lot of people are like 1, 3, 7, basically the Nancy trilogy,
Because I was thinking maybe it's all odd numbers. Maybe I'm going to really like 5. No.
Yeah.
No, let you down.
Yep. Although 5 was better than 4. I will give it that. 5 was
so
better than 4.
It is the odd numbered ones that are stronger.
Yeah.
Overall.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't watched 2 in such a long time, and I think I told you I watched the 4-hour documentary about all the films.
The story about 2 is much more interesting than the movie. The movie is terrible. It's terrible.
When you're done, you should go out and find that documentary I told you about and watch all the behind the scenes stuff, because it's pretty interesting.
And another big strike against the later movies is that they bring Patricia Arquette's character of Kristen back, but not Patricia Arquette. So that's a big hurdle to get over as well in part 4.
So I watched this week a film that I think everybody should see. It's wonderful, but I don't know how much access people will have to it. It's a Filipino movie, actually, called Leonora Will Never Die. It's in a limited engagement right now around the country. Just, one of these really small indie films that's just being shown at like Alamo Draft Houses and stuff like that. of course, I saw it at the Music Box. It is about an aging woman who made like these kind of really macho Filipino action movies in the 70s and the 80s. And she's sort of increasingly starting to live inside her head in this movie that she never finished, that was never produced. And it's all kind of tied up in like the tragic death of her son, who appears as a ghost throughout this film, who communicates with various family members and other things. But at one point in the movie, she gets hit in the head and she's sort of in like a not really a coma. They have a different name for it in the movie. They call it like a conscious sleep in the hospital. And she actually kind of goes inside her movie. So the film is sort of taking place partially in her movie, which the way they shoot it is absolutely brilliant. It looks like a 70s action film. At first, she's sort of observing, and then she's an active participant. And in the meantime, there's this other stuff that's happening on the outside. And there's all these sort of really different layers about like what is real and what isn't. And, you know, how people solve their emotional issues, because she has one living son who is frustrated with her, who lives with her. He's going to leave her alone. And that's also a conflict in the film. It's so good. I wish I could describe it. It's got all these sort of fascinating layers in it. If you have a chance to see it, you should try to. Sheila Francisco plays Leonore, and she's wonderful. She's a very, very appealing actress. And it's just one of these movies that you see, and at first you're like, what the heck is going on here? And then you kind of just give yourself up to it, and it's amazing.
Interesting. All right. So
Cool.
Next week, even though this was a Christmas episode of sorts, next week will be as well. Christina, unfortunately, will not be here due to familial obligations. As we all have during the holidays. Jeff and I will hold down the fort. As I said before, we're covering snow caps during the concession break, so tune in for that. But other than that, we are going back a couple of weeks. I know it's been out for a while, but we are going to be discussing the Guardians of the Galaxy Holiday Special, which is currently on Disney+. And besides that, Jeff and I are also bringing each of our own holiday specials to the table that we would like to discuss. Jeff, would you like to share what you've chosen?
Christina might be very happy she's skipping out on this week. Pee-wee's Playhouse Christmas.
Ooh, this was a standalone. Now, we all know that Pee-wee's Playhouse was a Saturday morning CBS TV show for kids that came out post Pee-wee's Big Adventure. And I believe this was part of it, if I'm not mistaken.
I think it was
part of that TV show.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all the regular characters and plays. So
yeah. And
guest stars.
A couple, more than a couple from looking at the video box that I got from my library. And my choice is going to be, I'm going back to the Monkey Well, and we're looking at the Monkeys Christmas episode from season 2 of their TV series. So hopefully Jeff will be able to procure that so he can watch it, because I've already got Pee-wee's Playhouse. So
it does look like it's on YouTube.
All right, good. So
but I also reserved all of season 2 from my library.
Oh, okay. So you'll watch it regardless.
Yeah.
So it's really 3 mini episodes all glued together. We hope you join us next week.
Nice.
And I won't be here, but I just want to throw out, as long as people are watching Christmas specials, go watch the X-Files, How the Ghost Stole Christmas.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Is that the one with, is that the Lily Tomlin one?
Yes, it's Lily Tomlin, Ed Asner.
Yep.
One of my favorites.
Yes.
Yep. That's a good one too. Maybe next year we'll be able to discuss that. Yeah, I'll double that. Go watch it. All right. So Christina, Merry Christmas. Since you won't be here, Happy Holidays, Merry Christmas. And
Merry Christmas.
We hope your travels are safe.
Hope your family get-together is better than these 2 movies.
Hopefully there'll be no terrorists and no emotional breakdown.
No Santas, no homicidal Santa showing up.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll be back in the new year, and we've got some exciting things on tap for 2023 as well. But until then, everyone, be nice to your delivery drivers.
I got some Amazon issues, but
and as always, thank you for listening.
Yes, thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
If you like what you just heard, be sure to follow TMI Confessionals of the Nerd Kind on Apple Podcasts, iHeartRadio, Spotify, or whatever you listen to your favorite podcasts on. Be sure to hit that subscribe button and then share it with your fellow movie nerd friends.
You can also find us on all of the socials, Instagram and Twitter at TMI_podcast 2018. We're on Facebook and YouTube as well. Just look for the Popcorn Bucket.
You can help support this show by visiting our TeePublic page for some TMI branded goodies such as hoodies, t-shirts, mugs, and stickers. tpublic.com/TMI Confessionals, all one word.
A 5-star review would be incredibly nice as well.
Thanks again for listening. We truly appreciate you. Be sure to come back next week. We'll save some popcorn for you.
Lobo? Really?
Wasn't there a Sheriff Lobo?
Sheriff Lobo.
Shut up. What is the matter with you two?
So there you go, you filthy animals. Merry Christmas.
Off.